Stay tuned for a meeting of the Calabasas City Council. The meeting will be broadcast using Zoom and the city's CTV Channel 3. Members of the City Council may teleconference into the meeting without noticing or posting an agenda at their teleconference location. Besides the live TV and Zoom broadcast, the live stream of the meeting may be viewed online at cityofcalabasas.com/CTV Live. If you want to provide public comment, press Raise Hand if you're using Zoom or *9 if you're joining by phone. Just unmute yourself by pressing *6. Say your name and the city you live in. You'll be allowed 3 minutes to address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Council. If the power or internet goes out lasting more than 15 minutes, or if there's some event that prevents the council from meeting or prevents you from providing public comment, then the meeting will be adjourned. Any items noticed as public hearings will be rescheduled to the next regular meeting of the City Council. Any other agenda items the council has not taken action on will be placed on a future agenda. Now, a meeting of the Calabasas City Council.
Good evening and welcome to the January 26, 2022 Calabasas City Council meeting. My name is Mary Sumauer. I'm the mayor, and I am joined this evening by Mayor Pro Tem David Shapiro, council members Alicia Weintraub, Peter Kraut, and James Bazagian. And I'd like to welcome all of our viewers. This evening, I'd like to ask Assistant Fire Chief Drew Smith if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Are you there, Drew?
I am, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Ms. Mayor. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. That was a great way to start this evening's meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second that.
In a second, thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Kraut,
Aye.
Councilmember Bazagian,
Aye.
Councilmember Weintraub,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro,
Yes.
Mayor Maurer.
Yes.
It carries, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We met earlier in closed session. Does the city attorney have anything to report out?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council met in closed session to consider one item, a conference with real property negotiator, Mr. Kenan Meek, regarding the facility at 27040 Malibu Hills Road in Calabasas. And the council considered the matter, provided direction to staff and council, and has continued the closed session until after this meeting for a second discussion. No reportable action is expected. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right, we have several presentations this evening, and it's my pleasure to bring back Assistant Chief Drew Smith to represent our Los Angeles County Fire Department in an update.
Mr. Smith, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? I see him on the screen, but I don't know if he's having issues.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Mari, can I ask you if Manny Fernandez from the Rotary Club is present?
I do not see him, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and then is Karen Schmidt from CPA present?
She is.
Okay, We'll give him just another few seconds to try and work out
He
the.
he unmuted. Chief, I'm sorry. There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. I'm back.
We knew you were there somewhere, so welcome back.
Well, thank you. So just the overview on your fire family and your Los Angeles County Fire Department. We are doing well. And I wanted to start by saying thank you for all the support for our organization with the loss of our firefighter combating the Palos Verdes fire, structure fire. And so I appreciate, and your organization appreciates all the outpouring and condolences that we received. Very tragic for us. And what is amazing with our organization, as big as we are and how many wonderful firefighters that we have and the amount of calls that we go on, we haven't suffered a line of duty death in a structure fire in 31 years. So it's a good track record, but it's tragic, but I appreciate the support. Also, there's been chat amongst the internet and different things about staffing, and your Los Angeles County Fire Department has not had any loss in staffing due to COVID. We're fully staffed. We have not shut down any of our engine companies, paramedic services, things, however, that we did alter with some of our in-person meetings. Of course, with fire prevention, we are being able to do some of those virtual, if you will, but drop-offs are still going on, but in-person contacts were suspended for the time due to the COVID surge. But once again, your 911 emergency response from your fire department has not been challenged, or have we not had any deficit in our staffing. Looking at where we're at for the time, looking at our, I'm sure you can see it, even your background describes, we're getting green grass out there. That's due to the rainfall that we've received. We're at 200% of normal. So average for the area is we get roughly 15 inches of rain. We're at 9 inches now, which is good. And so for the wildlands and the environment, this is what we like to see, is when the rain is tapered, if you will, through winter and spring. And so what we are hoping for, that Mother Nature cooperates and doses us with more rainfall to get to that average of 15 inches. And what I like to see, and this is from the fire behavior analyst standpoint and looking at fuels in the wildlands and how the environment interacts with our fuels in this ecosystem that we're in, is that having later rains is highly supportive for us to have a shorter duration wildfire issue as we get into our summer and fall months, because the vegetation stays more lush. It stays greener longer. It has more water weight to it. So that is a really good Mother Nature suppression to really keep the reduction in risk down. So we're not looking at those drought stressed vegetation throughout the area. So that's very favorable for where we're at now. And we'll leave it into Mother Nature's hands to see where we and how we fare as we get into the spring and into the summer. With that, if there's any questions for us, Megan is on another call at this time. But to relay for her is we're still holding off on any of our in-person meetings with CERT, and we're looking forward to doing that. But once we get the green light and we can be in person to give that much needed training, we will look forward to doing that, and more to be faced with getting people certified, because there is an outpouring for people that do want to be involved with CERT. Is there any questions for me?
Well, let me ask Mari, do we have any members of the public that are interested in asking the chief any questions?
I do not see any hands up, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and any of my colleagues, do you want to raise your hand if you have any comments, questions for the chief? And I'll call on you. I'll start off real quick to say I'm really pleased to hear about our rainfall pattern is actually going to be less impactful on drying out the vegetation later this year. So that's some good news. And I did want to say how awfully sorry I am about the loss of your colleague. I knew it had been a very long time. I didn't realize 31 years. And that just really, I think, stunned everyone in the county, and our deepest condolences on that.
Thank you very much. We're
Yeah.
highly appreciative. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Okay, and then I don't see any hands up, but I just wanted to say that later on in this evening, I don't expect you to stick around for the meeting, and we can probably provide you with an update. We're going to be talking about some of our strategic priorities, and among those are kind of emergency planning and just being as prepared as possible. So I know that we'll engage with you at some point on how we can continue to improve. So thank you.
We would highly respect being involved in that process. We're here to help, and we want to be part of that process. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very helpful. Okay, wonderful. So Mari, shall we move to the Clean Power Alliance presentation?
Actually, we have Manny Fernandez already in, Madam Mayor.
Yes, okay, wonderful. Well, let's bring Manny in, representing the Calabasas Rotary Club. He's here to discuss a longtime project that the city and the Rotary Club have been working on called Neighbors in Need. And any viewers at any time after you hear this presentation, if you can think of someone that is in a financial crisis short term, this program will be for them. So welcome, Manny.
Welcome. Pleasure to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Just fine.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Good to see all of you there this evening. Sorry we can't be there in person to touch base and bring you guys up to date on our wonderful Neighbors in Need program and city partnership that's gone on for so long. So what I want to do today is review that, so those watching on this feed can find out a lot more about the program and hear about some new variations of it that we have introduced and has gone live to allow more people to participate. So I'm going to share my screen here, and give me just a moment. And here we go. And let's play. All right. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, so I want to talk about the Neighbors in Need program, which is a form of assistance grants that we've been doing with the city. The history goes back a long time. It's amazing how time flies. City partnership we established in July of 2007, if you can believe it. So for some of the long-term council members and mayors, yeah, we've been around for quite a long time. We've helped, this has actually gone up since I did this PowerPoint, more than 96 families have helped. We've been able to give aid to since 2007, and 6 in calendar year 2021 under our support grant and emergency grant programs. So I'll go into a little bit about what these are about. So this whole program started with the pilot program for rent assistance for families that could not make their monthly rent obligation. So the very first Neighbors grant was actually a support grant where for a period of approximately 6 months, we adjuncted their income so that they could make good on their monthly rent payments. So our support grant and emergency grant programs are made to offer aid to Calabasas residents who, through unforeseen circumstances, have difficulties in meeting their financial needs for rent or mortgage, their utilities, food or clothing, medical expenses, emergency home repairs, things like that. A lot of people don't know that, Calabasas is a very diverse area, and some people are basically, living month to month in their situations and don't have savings for some of these upsets, especially some of the areas that have some of the longer term residents and older residents on fixed incomes. So that's how we came up with these programs. An emergency grant is a one-time grant for something major, like somebody's underinsured, has a roof leak and ruins the carpet. or a water tank explosion and they don't have water, or all of a sudden a surprise medical bill that pops up that they can't make payments for. So it's a one-time thing. And then support grants are small monthly stipends to help through tough times. We're very excited to announce this new program that we are starting called Outreach Grants. Outreach grants are for ostensibly the same type of situations, but unlike the other two grants, which are large amounts that can vary from $1,000 to $2,500 in total amounts, outreach grants are really looking forward to a very much a versatile, easy to get, easy to apply for, easy to approve if meeting the mission statement for utilities, food, clothing, medical expenses, school expenses, transportation, and other things like a lot of the same categories are going to apply. But most importantly, the legacy support and emergency grants, there is a relatively complete application process, including an interview and a lot of due diligence because of the nature and size of the grants. We want to responsibly use the city's money to make sure that people have true needs for those. The outreach grants are much smaller, $250 to $500 to be able to utilize an online application and vetting process to get these things out in terms of rapid need. So I believe that we have dropped off some postcards, which we'll get into a little bit later. Over the lifetime of the program, the quandary we've always had is how do we get the word out for all of the grants where we're able to get as much participation as possible, yet not exhausting our budget in a few months' time for a calendar year. So these outreach grants, which are smaller in nature, we are partnering with the school district, the sheriffs, and the senior center, and of course the city of Calabasas to help get the word out on these outreach grants. And I want to say thank you so much for announcing stuff on the Neighbors in Need program at the last council meeting, because we've gotten a number of inquiries already through our website portal. As I mentioned, we've went ahead and printed a number of these postcards that we are distributing to the areas, as I mentioned, so that we can give these out to Calabasas residents to find out about what we have. So it gives them our address and phone number by which they can see what is available should they need financial assistance of this type. So I hope you guys already got some of these. I believe Bet Hall and Sally tried to drop some by off last week and earlier this week. And if you don't, let me know. I'll make sure you get them. So what's nice is right in the middle of our webpage, we have that nice banner in the middle of the red, request for financial assistance. We want to make it nice and simple for residents to access the information on the grants that are available. And when you click on that button, it takes you to this page where it gives summaries and direct links for either downloading the appropriate applications and or in the case of the outreach grants, actually takes them to the information page to enter the basics of information by which to apply for the outreach grant. So this has been live for approximately three weeks now. And we are very, very happy to report, as I said, that we've gotten a number of inquiries come through and things are in the process. One thing that's just so nice about this program is the true value it has for the Calabasas residents. This is just a sample of some of the letters of thanks that we get. I know this is probably fairly small for some of you to read, so I'm just going to read this one here. Dearest Manny and the members of the Rotary Club Committee, I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the generous grant you awarded me at this very difficult time in my life. I am very grateful for your support and kindness. I meant to write earlier, but I am going through radiation right now, which is causing me to feel very weak and not focus. Being able not to worry about paying my basic bills while I'm unable to work during my therapy has made it so much easier for me to focus on getting healthy. I am looking forward soon to be able to be back to work and to be able to fully support myself. I would not have made it through without the wonderful help of this program. Thank you again. And this is just a sampling of the thank yous we get from the Calabasas residents we're able to help. It really does have an impact. And we're very proud to have this long-term relationship with the city to do this because we see it has an impact. So in review, this is the Calabasas Rotary Club's Neighbors in Need program, and proud to say 14 years of making a difference for Calabasas residents in need. And we truly, truly appreciate the ongoing support and advocacy with the city in this regard, and look forward to expanding and helping out more people. So with that, I will stop my share and invite any questions you guys may have.
Yes, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Manny. And I think you're doing a great job in promoting it. I have one suggestion,
Sure.
and maybe you're already doing this, but if you do find someone that maybe one-time grant is not quite enough, there are social services that could help people as well, or information on paying medical debt, et cetera. Do you provide those kind of additional county usually or nonprofit services?
So one of the things that we do as part of the interview process is give people information to learn how to take care of food stamps, let them know what food pantries are available. We have a little, I won't say a directory, but we have a little short list of resources for them. In addition, because of the makeup of some of the members on the committee, some who have difficulty applying for jobs, we offer to review resumes and things like that. So we give them a lot of information that can take them to the areas that are beyond our capabilities as well. So those are very good suggestions, and we do some of those already.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. You are a group of giving people. Mari, are there any members of the public that have any questions or comments on this item?
No, Madam Mayor, I see no hands up.
Okay, then let me go to my colleagues. Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro.
Thank you. And Manny, thank you very much on Rotary. This is an amazing program. I was not on council when this began, but I recall the inception. I remember the days in the old city hall where individuals would line up and come to council requesting grants, among other things. And this program was morphed into a much, much better option. And we found a partner in Rotary to really handle this, make it a very fair and private relationship between Rotary and the individuals seeking the emergency grants in need. And just want to thank you and all of Rotary for the excellent work through all these years. It's really been seamless. And as you said, you get thank you letters and we hear nothing but positive. So at least I do. One question that has come up, just to clarify, these grants, these emergency funds are used for Calabasas residents, correct?
Just for Calabasas residents, that is correct.
Okay. And again, thank you very much and continued great success, and keep working many, many years. Look forward to seeing you in this position for Rotary as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to follow up on something that you mentioned, we also stress the privacy aspect of it, because one of the major hurdles that we find with a lot of the people is they are literally embarrassed to look out for aid. And sometimes that delay in being embarrassed to search out aid complicates the depth of their issues that they're having. So we guarantee them anonymity outside of the interview committee for the whole process, so they don't have to worry and have, quote, the stigma that I asked for a grant. And it seems like it would be a silly thing, but a lot of them mentioned right to us that they wish would have come sooner, but they're too embarrassed to reach out for help.
Okay, I'm going to go to Council Member Weintraub, and then I'll go back to any public speakers. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for all the amazing work you're doing in the community. I know you're providing such value to the people in need, and I really appreciate it. I always appreciate how responsive you are when we reach out with questions and when someone needs to get in touch with you. So thank you for all you're doing.
Okay, I don't see any more council questions. I will note that the Calabasas Rotary Club meets every Tuesday around lunchtime. You can get information on their website. Not only do they run these local philanthropy programs, but they have a host of different programs based on your interest, if it's international. And they're always volunteering at city events. So if you have any extra time, be sure and go to their website and look them up. I believe we have a member of the public.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Kathleen Sterling.
Welcome, Kathleen.
Hello, everyone. I want to say you guys are all doing a great job. Manny, that was a terrific presentation. I've always heard about Neighbors in Need, and as an honorary Calabasas Rotarian, we've been proud to help, but I'd like to help more. So if you can email me the postcard, we will certainly run it in the papers and do a story as well. So reach out to me or get my email through Susie, and we'll get some stuff going for you guys next week.
Absolutely, Kathleen. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. That's a great offer, and I think that'll help a lot of people as well. So, all right, I don't see any more questions, and I don't know if there's any more members of the public. Are there?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
No more.
All right. Well, thank you, Manny, very much, and we'll see you at a meeting soon.
Absolutely. Have a good evening,
Okay.
everybody.
All right, our next and final presentation this evening is from the Clean Power Alliance, and this evening we're joined by Karen Schmidt. She's the Senior Advisor of Strategy, and she's going to be talking about the time of use rates that will be changing soon here in Calabasas. So welcome very much, Karen.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here to give you an update on the residential time of use transition. Let me share my screen. Okay, is that working?
There it is. It's working.
Okay, great. So let's see. The transition to residential time of use rates is being driven by state mandate, which has directed investor-owned utilities across the state to make time of use rates the default for residential customers this started back in October of 2020. Southern California Edison is in the process of transitioning customers across its service territory now through May of 22. And this means that eligible Clean Power Alliance residential customers will be transitioned to time of use rates in February and March. So the transition for our customers is coming up. Specifically, most customers in Calabasas can expect to see the transition take place in March. Just as a refresher, time of use rates are intended to provide customers with an incentive to reduce their power consumption during the hours of the day when electricity is most expensive because demand is highest. It also means that it's the time of day when electricity is also the dirtiest. It's when more fossil fuel generation has to be brought online to meet peak demand in the early evenings as people are getting home from work. Demand is spiking, and the abundant solar power on the grid around the state is turning down because of the sun going down. Time of use rates are not new. In fact, commercial customers have been on default time of use rates for many years. And about a little over 10% of CPA customers, residential customers, are already on time of use rates voluntarily. Customers will receive 3 notices before they are transitioned to the default time of use rates. Most customers in Calabasas should have received their first notice in November or December, 90 days prior to their transition date. The second notice goes out 30 days prior, so Calabasas customers should be getting that second notice any day now. And then a third notice, a welcome letter, will be sent at the time of the actual transition. Customers who have email addresses on file with Southern California Edison also should receive that notice by email as well as in the mail. The notices lay out a few pieces of key information. They provide an estimate of the bill impact, what the difference is expected to be between the customer's current flat rates and the TOU rate that they'll be transitioned to. This is based on past usage. It assumes the usage from the last year or two, so it doesn't reflect any change in usage in the future. The notices also explain the bill protection feature for this transition, and I'll say more about that in a moment. And it lays out the ways that customers can opt out of the TOU rates if they choose to, and I'll also say a little bit more about that. So important to note, customers don't need to take any action at this time. And the bill protection allows customers to try out the time of use rates essentially at no risk. So the transition will happen automatically. Customers don't need to do anything. They will be placed on either what's known as the TOUD 5 to 8 p.m. or TOUD 4 to 9 p.m. rate. The difference being which hours are the peak hours, and the customers will be defaulted to whichever one of those is the best for that household based on their past usage. The bill protection, the way that works is that for the first 12 months that customers are on the new default time of use rates, if they end up paying more on time of use than they would have on their previous rate plan, they will get a bill credit for that difference. Lastly, and this is important, customers can switch back to the flat rate or tiered rate domestic rate plan at any time, or they can switch to a different time of use plan. The notices that customers receive will spell out the different ways that they can opt out if they choose to do so. You can do it online. You can do it by mail. The notices that customers will get in the mail have a tear-off form that can be returned, or they can call. SCE has a dedicated time of use line that customers can call, and it can also, of course, ask questions about their different options. We do encourage customers to take advantage of the bill protection and try out the time of use rates because they do offer customers an opportunity to save money on their bills by shifting their electricity usage away from those hours when it's most expensive, and this also helps benefit our environment. Of course, the ability to save money during those peak hours depends on your ability to shift your usage away from those hours. There's a few of the ways that customers can do that are listed here. More ideas can be found on our website as well as SCE's website, and include things like shifting your running of large appliances away from the peak hours, reducing your overall energy usage with efficient light bulbs, turning off lights and appliances when they aren't in use. And for those who are able to take advantage of smart appliances and thermostats that can be set to operate during specific times of day, and then you don't have to think about it once you've set them. Again, you can find more information at our website. We have a page called Time Matters with more information specifically about the time of use transition and ways to take advantage of the new time of use pricing. In addition to, connecting with Edison, if you want to opt out or switch your rate plan, you can also call our customer service number or send us an email with questions, and we'll be happy to provide more information. And we encourage you as well to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and sign up on our website for our newsletter to get information on a regular basis about this and other programs that CPA offers. That's it. I'm happy, of course, to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Karen. That was very informative. There's a lot of information flowing right now about time of use. Let me start with members of the public. Mari, is there anyone wishing to ask a question or make a comment?
I do not see any hands, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and then I'll go to my colleagues and I'll start with Councilmember Crowe.
Yes, thank you, Karen, for a fantastic presentation. I really appreciate that. In listening to the time of use program, I think most people that have a solar system would really benefit from having battery storage at this time, because they could generate power during the day and use it during those peak hours when electricity is in such high demand. Are there any incentive programs right now for battery storage?
There are. There's a statewide program called SGIP. I don't know what its current status is. Those funds are pretty highly sought after and go quickly. In our region, Southern California, Edison is the administrator of that program. So I would encourage customers to look at SCE's website or contact them to see if those incentives are still available. And I will say, CPA has had, a pilot program in the past around battery storage, and we're looking at that for the future because, we see that as a great benefit both to our customers and the grid and to CPA as a whole. So we definitely want to encourage that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen, for the presentation. And just one brief question. I've been asked this. If there are residents in our community who are already receiving a really good rate or a special low rate plan, let's say, how would they know if they would benefit from the TOU versus their current plan if there are no set numbers right now? Would someone come out and evaluate for them, or do it virtually, or are they just supposed to try it out and then opt out?
So a couple of points, and I meant to mention this during my presentation, so I'm glad you asked. Customers who are on financial assistance programs like CARE or FARA, they will retain those discounts. Those discounts will carry over to the time of use rates. Customers who are on medical baseline actually are exempted from the transition. They can choose to switch to a time of use rate, but they won't be automatically defaulted to that rate. Similarly with if folks are on the summer discount program or other kinds of savings programs, those will automatically carry over to the time of use rates. If you're talking about customers wanting to evaluate potential savings from, say, rooftop solar or battery storage, then they would benefit from having an expert come out and evaluate their home and the whether it's suited and what the economics of that look like. We do have on the CPA website, there is our customers can access a program that provides them with access to a free set of quotes that are on an apples to apples basis. So that's one way that customers can access some good objective information about to help them evaluate a potential solar investment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. And so with the exception really of medical baseline, everyone will transition over and they will receive the same or be on the same plan and benefit from this transition to TOU, if I heard you right.
Yeah, there are a few other exceptions. So customers who are on care and fair rates who live in what's defined as a hot climate zone will be exempted from the transition. And I tried to look up to see whether any of Calabasas fits that, and I wasn't able to track down that information before tonight's presentation. But customers who have a question can either call us or call Edison to find that out. And then, as I mentioned, the notification that customers get will have an estimate of the bill impact on the TOU 4 and the TOU 5 rate plans compared to the domestic flat rate plan based on their past usage. You can also, both CPA and SCE have rate comparison tools that I believe may allow you to play around with, if you think your usage is going to be significantly higher or lower, then you might try that to see if you can get a different estimate. But the information in the notifications should give most customers a pretty good sense of what the impact will be. And again, with bill protection, customers can give it a try and see if they are able to shift their energy usage away from those peak hours and save some money.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kendon. I was going to ask if it's possible, if we all agree, to have those links to the tools to let people click on and evaluate through yours and SE's websites. If this is going to benefit them, how much, that would be helpful also. And thank you, Karen, very much for everything.
Okay, I don't see any more hands. I just have a couple comments. Karen, thank you very much. This is a new, another exciting opportunity for Calabasas residents to, change their energy use patterns and save money and save some of the renewable energy that we are purchasing. And a reminder that we've converted to 100% renewable energy, which is extraordinarily exciting. We made a big step forward quickly. And I'm very proud of my colleagues in the city for doing that. There are tools available, as Karen mentioned, for people to assess the different plans and how it would impact them. And it is on individual cards that are being mailed. But we will definitely put it on our website. We've been very proactive in putting information up and even providing a local phone number for people to call if they need assistance. So Karen, thank you again for joining us, and we appreciate it, and best of luck.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we're going to move on now to council announcements. I'm going to start with Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro. Any announcements?
Yes, just a couple. First of all, I want to announce, and this starts February 7th through the 28th, the Calabasas Caring Food Drive, which is benefiting the West Valley Food Pantry. And you can see our city site for details, but you can drop off food between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. at our Calabasas Senior Center. It's a year-round program that's so needed. West Valley Food Pantry is a great entity that we support, and I'm so proud of our seniors and the caring community for doing that. Next, on a little more somber note, obviously this is today, 2-year anniversaries today. The first one is of the very first COVID patient in LA County was today, 2 years ago. And our numbers are still high. Today they were about, I believe, a little over 20,000 per day in LA County, but that is, on the good news, that's down from over 40,000 a few weeks ago. So hopefully we are trending in the right direction. I urge everybody to follow local and county health protocols, and hopefully the numbers will keep coming down more and more, and everybody be safe. Today is also a 2-year anniversary of a very tragic day in Calabasas of the helicopter crash that took the lives of 9 wonderful women, men, and children. A very, very, very sad day. And I hope we'll all take a moment to hold those lost, their loved ones and families in our hearts. And lastly, speaking of heart, happy early Valentine's Day, February 14th to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Weintraub.
Just going off of what David said, I wanted to remember all the victims that passed away in the helicopter crash. And today, we're not only thinking of Kobe and Gianna, but John, Carrie, and Alyssa Altabelli, Christina Mauser, Sarah and Peyton Chester, and all of their family and loved ones. And I know we hear so much in the news about the lawsuit with the county, but I also want the family and friends of the victims to know the great lengths that the city went to protect the integrity of the site and to do everything that we could to just really do everything we can to keep that area away from the public and secure, and just that really not a day goes by that we don't think of those events, and our hearts continue to be with you.
Councilmember Kraut.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to mention that our Calabasas Environmental Commission once a year honors somebody with the Carl Gibbs Environmental Excellence Award. And this year they've decided to present the award to Fran Pabley. Fran Pabley was the first mayor of Agora Hills. She then went on to our state assembly and state senate and worked on all sorts of legislation that put caps on carbon emissions, laid the groundwork for our EV landscape, and protected our groundwater. All sorts of wonderful accomplishments, and we're here to honor her next Tuesday, the 1st of February at 7 p.m. on Zoom. So if you'd like to join us, it'll be on Zoom. The details are on the city website.
Thank you, Councilmember Kraut. I'll add that I had the privilege of working when she was Assembly Member Fran Pabley for a few years, and she is a remarkable human being, and we're lucky to have her in our region. Councilmember Bazagian.
Thank you. I don't have any announcements tonight.
Okay, I just have one. Some Calabasas residents and surrounding communities might remember answering a survey last summer related to how they were impacted by some of the climate change effects of wildfire, flooding, evacuation, power outages. And the results of that survey in a vulnerability assessment will be released on February 8th. There will be a public forum that the Malibu Foundation is producing. And it took a look at our greater Santa Monica area and the local COG cities, and what is some of the risks that our residents are going through in this climate change. It's one of the steps in a climate action plan. I'm happy that I'll be one of the panelists, but again, it's Tuesday, February 8th from 5:30 to 7. And we hope to have some linkage to the Zoom up soon. All right, with that, let's go to oral communication and public comment. Are there members of the public wishing to speak on something that is not on the agenda? Mari?
Madam Mayor, I do not see any hands.
Okay, let me know if they pop up. We're now on to consent items. We have consent items 1, 2, 3, and 4. Are there any items that any council members wish to pull off of consent?
4, please.
4. All right, is there a motion for items 1, 2, and 3?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bazagian,
Aye.
Councilmember Kraut,
Aye.
Councilmember Weintraub,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro,
Yes.
Mayor Maurer.
Aye.
Carries.
All right, 1, 2, 3 passes. And let's go to item number 4, Councilmember Bazagian.
Yes, on page, hi, Michael. On page 2 of the report, your report in part, you have on the second chart, the increase for Canyon Creek being a 23% increase between 2019 and 2020. Like the other increases were fairly modest, in fact, probably under the inflation at the time, which was a little more reasonable than it is today, of course. But even so, 23% increase. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, good evening, council members. Thank you for that question. I did actually reach out to Canyon Creek, to their management company, to find out what happened there. And what was explained to me is that the numbers they provided me are actually for their new tenant move-ins. So they didn't increase their regular tenants, the carryover tenants, more than what they typically would increase it by, roughly 5%. So they indicated that the difference of what they provided in 2021 versus 2020 is they gave the rental rates for new tenants. That being said, their rental rates are actually regulated by the state because that project leveraged tax credits, funding through a tax credit mechanism, and therefore the state actually sets what they're allowed to set their rental rates at. And if you look at the chart, that actually brought them into line with what the actual low income rental rate is, or very low income rental rate is for this general area. So if you see the Avanti and Paxton, which are also rental communities at very low income, the average rate for those are a little bit over what is being charged at Canyon Creek.
Well, let me tell, I understand that answer, and that does explain part of it. Let me tell you why I'm still troubled with this. First of all, Canyon Creek, unlike the others, is a senior housing facility. So it's exclusively seniors. And so it also, I believe, is a little smaller units than some of these others that you're listing here under Avanti and Paxton. But I don't know that there's that much of a differentiation. Eventually, what this means is that people are going to be priced out of moving in there. And for people downsizing and people on limited incomes, it's disturbing that the 1 year is 23%. So what you're telling me is that we might see that 23% number constantly pretty high if new people are moving in. Is that what that is going to be?
No, not necessarily, because really this brought that into alignment with what the current rental rate is for very low income. And the state income limits don't differentiate between senior and non-senior. It just establishes one rental rate for very low incomes. And so this is bringing that into alignment. The other thing that I should point out is in 2020, so between the 2020 and then the 2021 rental rate, for the first time, Canyon Creek actually opened up their wait list. They had a relatively high turnover. They don't usually have that much of a turnover, but for the first time they did. And so we actually advertised on our website that the wait list was open, and they held a new lottery and accepted more new tenants than they have previously. So we don't expect that kind of turnover to happen.
Is my recollection that the square footage is smaller, correct?
It's a little bit smaller than Avanti. Avanti is a mixture of 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. The 1 bedroom, and then Paxton, they're all 1 bedroom, and Canyon Creek is all 1 bedroom. So it's about in line with the 1 bedrooms, but there are a couple 2 bedroom units at the Avanti. Those also rent out for a little bit more money. So again, what we're seeing here is the average, and the way Canyon Creek is structured is they actually have a combination of moderate, low, and very low income units. So what we're seeing is sort of what that average looks like. They still have tenants that are renting out for around the $900 a month rental rate, but right as of 2021, the average did increase.
All right, thank you. I'm still concerned. I hope that next year we don't see that number, because that's going to price people out from even considering it. And a lot of those residents who I know are Calabasas residents who are downsizing and moved in there, and they won't be able to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Bazagian, for your good questions. Michael, I do just have one short question, and I really want to congratulate you for including in the report a Board of Supervisors decision yesterday. This report couldn't be more up to date, but can you share with the community what that was?
Yeah, so because of COVID-19, there are a handful of tenant protections that were put into place by the state and also by the county. The state protections actually will end at the end of, I believe it was either February or March of this year. And in the meantime, LA County Board of Supervisors back in 2020 also enacted their own tenant protections, which include an eviction moratorium. That was the big thing that the county provided, among other things. And so their intent is to bridge the gap between any state limitation and local limitation. Now, a lot of times county regulations don't necessarily transfer over to the city of Calabasas, but the way the Board of Supervisors structured their eviction moratorium is it applies to all unincorporated areas within the county, as well as incorporated cities that don't have their own tenant protection or eviction protections. So the County Board of Supervisors regulations do apply to the city of Calabasas, and it provides currently an eviction moratorium. It was going to expire at the end of this month, and just yesterday, the County Board of Supervisors voted to extend that, and so that was now extended through the end of 2022. There is a gradual phase out. So, for example, around starting June 1st, those protections will become limited to just those residents that earn less than 80% of the county median income. So it won't be, they are sort of phasing that out. The details were still a little bit unclear in all the reporting as to all of the fine print, but and as I stated, the Board of Supervisors did extend that out.
Great. Thank you, Michael. You always are so prepared, and appreciate that. And Councilmember Bazagian, thank you for your questions too. I think it is important to launch that development. All right. Is there a motion for item number 4?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kraut,
Yes.
Councilmember Usajian,
Aye.
Councilmember Weintraub,
Aye.
Mayor Potem Shapiro,
Yes.
Mayor Mauer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Shall we continue with the public hearing, or does anyone need a break at this
Madam Mayor,
point? Or?
if I can interject real quick, Tom Bartlett had his hand up at the end of that presentation, and we missed that. And so I'm not sure if he had something additional to add.
Oh, absolutely. Tom, are you still interested in adding to the discussion?
Sure.
Please go ahead.
If I'm on there, don't know.
Yes, we can hear you.
I apologize. I feel like I'm interrupting now if you voted on it, but Michael, you're right. He does an awesome job with this. I did want to just add on that last point. We actually do get a call from time to time from a tenant who is facing something and they're concerned about a rent increase or an eviction. And we do advise them of the county rule and that sort of thing, just like the one that Michael was referring to and the one that was extended. We also refer to them to agencies that help tenants in landlord-tenant disputes. And we've had a couple of those very recently. So we make an effort to to take advantage of those resources. Even though there aren't the cities, we do make sure our citizens are aware of them.
Thank you, Tom. That was important to state. Like the Neighbors in Need presentation, our staff also goes the extra mile to support our residents in crisis. So thank you very much for mentioning that.
Thank you.
All right. Did anyone, I don't see a hand up, so let's continue on the public hearing. This is a public hearing for consideration of the following matter: review and approval of projects for the 48th program year, that's 2022 to 2023, of the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funding, and adoption of resolution number 2022-1771, approving the CDBG 48th program year 2022 to 2023. Has the proof of posting and publication been filed for this public hearing?
Yes, Madam Mayor. We received no correspondence.
Thank you. This public hearing is open. Are there any changes or additions to the staff report?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Are there any city council questions regarding the staff report? I don't see any hands up. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter? Lori?
We have no hands, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Since there are no other speakers, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Proceed with the roll call, please.
Councilmember Bosajian,
Aye.
Councilmember Kraut,
Aye.
Councilmember Weintraub,
Aye.
Mayor Potem Shapiro,
Yes.
Mayor Mauer.
Yes.
Carries 5-0, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. All right, seeing no hands for a break, we are now going to be discussing council direction on strategic priorities on the 2022-2023 work plan. Before I turn it over to staff, I want to acknowledge several members of the Mayor's Youth Council who have joined this evening to watch this portion of the meeting. There will be an effort to align the projects coming from the Mayor's Youth Council to mirror the priorities that will be set, and they will have ample opportunity themselves to weigh in and help influence those. Those three individuals that I see so far are Leila Saleh, Zoe Kramer, and Nicole Mazarahi. So welcome to the three of you, and thank you, Kindon and Michael, for presenting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, council members. Kenan, is it okay if I go ahead and get right into it, or would you like to say something?
Yeah, please do, Michael.
Okay. So again, tonight staff is providing an update and seeking some direction on the strategic priorities and 22-23 work plan. Specifically, the requested action generally is direction on the strategic planning priorities process, but more specifically, staff is looking to have City Council approve final strategic priorities and review the draft projects and initiatives listing. So the current status of the process right now is in the policy phase. If you'll remember, this is the selection of the strategic priorities, which is, again, the policy approaches that align with accomplishing the city's mission. Again, think of it as categories or buckets of policy approaches. And within each of those priorities are specific projects and initiatives that are measurable activities that allow the city to achieve its strategic priority goals. So at the last City Council meeting on January 12th, the City Council reached consensus on these 4 strategic priorities: environmental leadership, fiscal resiliency, public safety and emergency preparedness, and recreation, youth, and senior services. There were other strategic policy categories receiving more than 1 vote, but less than 3, and that included housing, quality of life, and open space preservation. If you remember, city staff was seeking approximately 5 strategic priority selections. Through our research, we thought that was the best number to move forward with. But in reviewing the policies, the projects and the initiatives that were coming in, it became clear to staff that we most likely needed to have 2 different or 2 additional priority selections. And those are the ones you see here. What rose to the top, if you will, was an organizational excellence strategic priority, as well as a development and infrastructure strategic priority. And so for this reason, the city staff is recommending that we adopt not 1, but 2 additional strategic priorities, specifically the 2 mentioned, in addition to the 4 already approved by City Council. So this would be 6 strategic priorities moving forward, again, for the policy and strategy focus. We wouldn't ask you to approve these right now, but instead, when we review the projects and initiatives that have been submitted to the City Council after, we could have a simple consensus and change, revise, or again, approve those as presented tonight. So, and speaking of presenting tonight, to provide a little background, this past week and a half to 2 weeks, the city staff have requested projects and initiatives that fell within each of the strategic priority areas. Some of these were ranging from very specific and small to very large and grand. And so staff's goal or task was to group these within each of the strategic priorities that the council has selected at the prior meeting. In doing so, what we tried to do, or what we tried to craft, was a draft projects and initiatives listing. Again, each council member submitted projects and initiatives for each of the strategic priority areas. And we are going to, Kindon is going to go through a process now to present it to council and take some steps to add or generally provide comments on it moving forward. Kindon, I'll hand it off to you if you'd like.
Thank you, Michael. And before you bring up the different PDFs or the other projects and initiatives, could you go back just a couple slides to those right there, the priorities? Again, council, just to emphasize this, these are your priorities. The four, again, are the ones that were very clear as we ranked them at our last meeting. When Michael and I started to look at the projects and the initiatives that came in that you submitted, we started to see that they fell into these clearly into the organizational excellence, and we'll show you some of those. The development and infrastructure, that is a category or a priority that we created. If you remember, at our last meeting, we had several. We'd listed it in as many priorities that we'd either come up with or seen in the best examples of other cities. And so we had development and infrastructure as separate. We've lumped those together, and you'll see that those include, again, some of the projects or initiatives that were mentioned kind of lumped in there. Again, these are your priorities though, however, and so if these aren't the right fit for you, we want direction on that, and we'll change those. So let's start first with looking at environmental leadership. So environmental leadership, as the council submitted their different projects and initiatives. Actually, let me step back real quick. One thing, if I can, council, we do want to acknowledge that we're moving fairly quickly on this. And there's a reason for this. We have a special meeting scheduled in February 16th. And that is a workshop that has been blocked out on your calendar. And our efforts are leading up to that. We want to be able to be prepared enough to present and have all of the information to have a robust discussion and a really make the right steps now to be prepared for that discussion on February 16th. In regards to environmental leadership, we've received 11 different projects or initiatives. I want to point out these are not ranked at all. We've listed them items 1 through 11, or you'll see on the other ones, they're listed by item numbers. But again, these aren't ranked. There is no priority to these. There is no, we've just put these on. And what I'd like you to do is, you've received these both via email. We have these on screen. What we don't want to do tonight, we don't want to spend a lot of time really analyzing each of these. What we found is that as the council presented these, Michael mentioned this, some were very, very specific. Others were a little bit more broad in their nature. And so there is some further clarity that is required. But what we wanted to have the council do is to look at these, this list, and to then be able to determine if the council wants to add any other projects or initiatives. And the only reason we're doing that is that this is the first time that you as a group are seeing the other responses from the council members. And so we're hoping that in looking at this, it might either consolidate some of the ideas, or it might spur another idea that you'd heard, or maybe it had been mentioned to you from a constituent. Council, do you want me to read through these, each one just real quickly, or can you see those well enough to just look at those, and what would be best for you?
Well, I think we can all see them. I don't know, I'm assuming the public can see them also. Why don't you read them?
Yeah, I'll read them just in case there's somebody just listening.
Yeah.
So under environmental leadership, ideas for projects and initiatives that we've received are prohibit the use of rodenticides, prohibit the use of gas leaf blowers, acquire open space, provide smoking sections at Las Virgenes Creek, update the municipal code 17.34, which requires LEED 2.0, assist residents with the ability to comply with the state's new food waste requirements, fast track the development of a climate action plan, update and implement a green procurement policy, convert city-owned and managed landscapes into xeriscape or drought tolerant and include monarch butterfly vegetation, develop a water resilience plan outlining strategies to increase drought preparedness and local water self-reliance, and finally, review and update city ordinance on the prohibition on plastic carryout bags. We do have listed to the side of those the council members that have submitted those. In some instances, there were 2 or more of you that had a very similar project or initiative, and so we've coupled those together. I do see a couple hands up, so before I move on, I'm going to pause there, Madam Mayor, if I can, and take questions.
Absolutely. Councilmember Crowe?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify 2 items on there because I heard the snickers, even though you were muted. The smoking sections at Las Virgenes Creek, just to really quickly explain that, we have a lot of office buildings that back up to Las Virgenes Creek, and they all do not allow smoking inside and have a smoking section designated more than 15 feet away from their entrance, et cetera, to meet our local ordinance. What happens though is that the smokers in these facilities see that beautiful creekside and pathway, and they wander out there to smoke, and there's no ashtrays for them to dispose of their cigarette butts. So I think it might be a good idea to explore that, whether the businesses provide that or whether the city provides it back there. And then the item number 5, which is the update on our LEED requirements. We currently require a LEED scorecard from an older system. Since our ordinance was enacted, the Green Building Code came out for California. There's a lot of conflicting requirements where we used to be the leader in environmental design, and I think right now we're actually creating some difficulties for design professionals to manage our green building process. So that's just a quick explanation of the 2 odd ones on the list. And with that, I'll pass it off to Councilmember Bazagian.
Yes, my main question was the smoking section. I'm glad you explained it. I'm not sure that putting an ashtrays or whatever out there is a great idea, as it might encourage other people to smoke who are just there or go there to smoke. And I just, as much as you put out ashtrays, I mean, it's going to cause people to discard things that they shouldn't in the brush. So before we did something like that, I need to really speak to some people with expertise in the fire department as to what they would think of that, whether that's a plus or a minus. But thank you for explaining it.
Okay, Councilmember Weintraub? You're muted.
Do you want us asking questions right now, explaining what we presented? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, so I wanted to present these. So first of all, as we look at this list, is there any other projects or initiatives that the council members would like to add that falls under environmental leadership? Now that you've been able to look at the list of others. We don't want to spend a lot of time on discussion or clarification unless, again, like Councilmember Kraut, there's audible snickers from the audience that we need to address. But because one of the things that we'll be doing after this is we will then be meeting with the council members one-on-one for more specific clarity and defining these. And what we mean by that is some of these are very open in the sense of we need to come back and come up with a very measurable
and defined goal that would translate into the work plan. And so that will come out in some of the one-on-one discussions.
So if I heard you clearly, Kindon, what you're asking for right now as we review each of these 6 priorities is, do we want to add anything?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to use the time to tonight to debate or decide which ones should be on the list or not. These are just right now to get the full list, so we're better prepared to come back with the one-on-ones.
So you don't want us to say if we don't support one on the list.
Correct. Yeah. Save that for our February 16th discussion.
Okay, Councilmember Bazagian.
I'll be quick. One thing that I forgot to put on here was taking a look at our ordinances regarding trash collection. There continues to be problems with people leaving their trash cans out all week or leaving the lid up with food out and attracting rodents and wildlife and other violations, putting trash in other people's trash cans. Can we take a look at that maybe and include that on a potential environmental leadership list?
We'll add that, council member.
Okay, I don't see any other hands on this item, environmental leadership.
Okay, Michael, next one. Fiscal resiliency. Council members, let me go through this list. Item number 1, create a deferred maintenance funds account or a policy or program. Number 2, revise planning fee structure to cover 100% of costs associated with all new development and commercial construction. Number 3, hire a grant writer with experience administering grants. It could be an employee. We could look at different models on that. Number 4, develop an economic development plan that includes attracting high tax generating businesses. Number 5, develop and promote a no-fee business directory. 6, address CalPERS unfunded liability. Number 7, create a plan to address the OPEB liabilities. These are the other post-employment benefit liabilities or retiree health liabilities. And then number 8, create a general fund reserve policy. Any others that council members would like to add to that one?
Councilmember Bazagian.
I think hiring or contracting out for a lobbyist should maybe fit in here.
I agree with that.
I forgot to include it on mine, but I had meant to. I
Okay.
mentioned it before.
What was that, James?
Hiring a lobbyist, which contracting out for a lobbyist part-time. I think actually, Mary Sue, you've been the one who mentioned it most of the time, so I don't want to take full credit for it. But I've always agreed. I think we should get one. Other cities our size have them, and they're very helpful.
And Councilmember Bazagian, I do believe that we have that on a future under organizational excellence, but we've noted it just in case it's not right there.
Anyone else, anything to add in this area? Kindon, would you add anything to this area?
No, the only thing I think we could add is we had our budget task force meeting this week to talk about both the CalPERS and the OPEB liabilities. And in addition to just a general fund reserve policy, we talked about just in general having a number of policies in regards to our finances. The city does not have a set book of policies on some of its financial actions. And so that might be something that we could add, not just a general fund reserve policy, but other policies as well.
I'm sorry, I don't see a lobbyist on the organizational excellence. It doesn't matter where it goes, but
okay, thank you.
It's somewhere. Unless you meant it to be number 1 on that, but it doesn't say that.
I think that was the intention of that one, but I think you're right. We'll get there, but it's noted and we can include it in either of those categories.
All right, there doesn't appear to be any more questions on that.
Next one, public safety and emergency preparedness. Council, if you remember, this was actually the priority that was at the top of the list of every single one of the council members. And so it is our largest list. Let me go through these. We have 22 items on this one. And let me just read those off and then look for any other others at this time. Number one, create a citywide fiber optic network. Number two, provide reliable cell coverage in all areas of Calabasas. Number three, address routine failures in electrical power by SCE and hold them accountable for infrastructure improvements. Number four, consolidate the alerts from the city. These include Blackboard, Alert LA County, Nixle, Calabasas, city notifications, SCE, and others to better publicize the signups to those. Number five, address street racing concerns. Number six, review additional sites for the flock system implementation. 7, evaluate options to counter open space trails and break-ins, including effective community outreach. Number 8, develop a feasibility study regarding stationing cell towers on public sites. Number 9, enhance our work with the city's partners to continue addressing homelessness. And next is coordinate with the private property owners and shopping centers to advise of rights and responsibilities related to homelessness. Number 11, review improvements to community outreach in the event of an emergency. Number 12, coordinate with LA County to better understand the development of evacuation zones. Number 13, evaluate sites in the city that can store generators or be used as charging stations during emergencies. Number 14, coordinate and purchase emergency items as previously recommended by LA County Fire and Sheriff. Number 15, develop a city readiness and education initiative for earthquake and fire emergencies. Number 16, hire an emergency manager. 17, support additional fire safe councils. Next is review LA County Sheriff Department services and consider opportunities to realign funding and services. Fire safety. Number 20, expand connections to additional homeless service providers. These would be wraparound services. And number 21, coordinate with HOAs to develop neighborhood watch type of programs. And number 22, develop expenditure plan for the Woolsey Fire Settlement Funds. Any comments or additions to these?
I'll start. I just wanted to clarify number 16. That was that was mine, hire an emergency manager. That was kind of the bigger picture, and a lot of these things definitely would fall under that. So I didn't go into details other than to state that, but just wanted to mention it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else with any comments, questions on this list? It's an excellent list.
It's a good list.
This was a really, really good list. All of these have been wonderful, but I think this one is very, very well thought out.
Okay, there doesn't appear to be any questions.
Recreation and youth and senior services. So council, this was one of those that was combined. We had youth and senior services that received a clear 3 vote or 3 nods from the council at our last meeting, but there was also a strong support for recreation and questions from the council of why those weren't lumped together. Very common for other cities who traditionally do these strategic priorities to include these together. So we've done that. Item number 1 on this one, reopen the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center. Number 2, enhance library services and staffing. 3, add a shade structure to the senior center. Improve recreation programs and opportunities for teenagers. Number 5, improve bicycle access throughout Calabasas and develop events for families surrounding our trails and biking, and explore a partnership with, Cyclavia. What's the right way to say that one, Alicia?
Cyclavia.
Cyclavia, thank you. I apologize. And become a designated bicycle-friendly community. And number 6, determine feasibility of adding more basketball courts, soccer fields, or a skate park. Number 7, evaluate funding to do a homebound meal program
meal delivery program. Number 8, develop an annual Calabasas run. 9, evaluate and enhance the city's calendar of events. 10, conduct a best use analysis for Creekside Park. 11, upgrade playground equipment, trails, and pathways at city parks. Number 12, complete a full and permanent build out of Wild Walnut Park to include both dog and children's park. Enact a youth voter registration program. Align the mayor's youth council activities with the city priorities. Number 15, regularly schedule senior center membership drives for residents. 16, increase senior and teen programming at the Calabasas Tennis and Swim Center. 17, identify real property for acquisition for the purposes of future parkland and open space designation. 18, expand the scope of the mayor's youth council and facilitate connections with similar youth groups. Number 19, create more intergenerational programs and events. And then last, coordinate a formal Relay for Life event. Anything to add on that?
This is another.
Any additions on this? Alicia, did you want to go ahead?
No, I just want to say this is another really good list.
Anyone else? Any additions, Councilmember Kraut?
Yeah, I think with if this is all inclusive of stuff, I think we should have mention in there of Headwaters Corner and our Masson building because they are integral to that Wild Walnut Park item.
I agree. Councilmember Bizotti?
What does create equity and staff participation in CalPERS mean? I wasn't sure.
Is that on the, I'm sorry, is that on the, oh, that's under the fiscal resiliency?
I'm sorry. I think it's actually it's on organizational excellence.
We'll get to that one to Councilmember Bizogian.
Okay.
So no more comments on recreation, youth and senior services? Anybody?
Oh, yes, I'm on the, I turned the page. Sorry about that. Turn the page early. I'm looking down here.
All right.
Next one, organizational excellence. Again, we were excited to see the thoughts on this one. Let me read through these. Number 1, provide regular and brief summaries of county and state measures that would affect Calabasas. Schedule time for city council to discuss, oppose, or endorse. Next is better utilize commissioner expertise and seek earlier involvement in project research and recommendation process. Hold commission meetings at least every 1 to 2 months. Number 3, create a separate education commission to liaison with the schools. Number 4, build the strength of our commissioners and help them develop relationships in the community. This should include orientations and network opportunities with council, staff, etc. Number 5, review our electronic presence by improving website navigation and the Calabasas Connect app. Number 6, develop a system to ensure residents' emails are addressed. Number 7, create equity and staff participation in CalPERS. Number 8, assess and restructure city staffing needs. Number 9, establish a more efficient system of maintaining city records and archives. Number 10, foster better relations with outside public and larger private organizations. Number 11, make better use of city volunteers, particularly standing city commissions. 12, evaluate the effectiveness of the city's code enforcement operations and use of the city prosecutor making revisions as warranted. Next is examine longstanding city contracts with third parties to assess their present viability. And then finally, conduct a comprehensive assessment of the services and programs offered by the city to determine whether they are meeting the needs of every segment within our community. And then Councilmember Bizogian, let me go back to your question on that one. Mary Sue, if you want to jump in, but what I'm understanding this one is with CalPERS, with a change in the PEPRA law, new employees into the PERS system pay their share of what was used to be, or what is called the employee share of costs, whereas classic employees, or those hired before the PEPRA law, the city pays that that employee share of PERS. And so what this would do is look for some type of model or implement some change where PEPRA or pre-PEPRA employees are both either paying that employee share of PERS. Mary Sue, did I adequately hit that one?
Yes, that's exactly the issue.
Any others to add to this list? Good.
I don't see any hands.
And then finally, this is one of the categories or the priorities that we saw different projects and initiatives come in, and they seem to fall under the umbrella of development and infrastructure. Let me read through those. Number one, step up efforts to complete outstanding annexations, including Craftsman's Corner. Create a pilot affordable ADU program. Conduct an analysis and action plan to remedy neighborhoods without streetlights. Prioritize redevelopment of new 100% affordable senior housing along Calabasas Road. Number 5, define the city's long-term land use strategies, including the next general plan update. Number 6, to the extent there are state mandates, emphasize affordable housing, for example, rather than just raw numbers of additional units. Number 7, alleviate traffic congestion where possible. Number 8, incentivize citywide affordable housing. Number 9, pursue federal and state infrastructure grants. And number 10, promote housing development to ensure RENA requirements are met. Any to add to these?
I don't see any hands up.
So before we move forward, Madam Mayor, maybe what we can do is just open it up to the council for some general observations or comments. Again, we don't want to spend time looking at which ones we might want to review or which ones we support or don't support. I think there's more needed in coming back with some actionable, specific work plan items under those, but I do want to get some general observations or thoughts from the council before we continue.
Okay, let's go around the table, starting with Councilmember Bazaju. Any last minute thoughts, observations?
Yeah, I like the list. I like the exercise here, but I do want to emphasize that we have a lot of agenda items on there. And we also have agenda items that come up throughout the year. And it's been our habit, unfortunately, in the past, something will get on a future agenda items list or referred to a commission, and it could be like years, literally, before we hear back. I think like the gas leaf blowers is one example. So let's make sure that we have a method. Maybe on the priority list, we put a structure in place so that we can track what happens to future agenda items requests and priorities, because otherwise some of them get lost. That'd be my only comment. Thank you for doing this.
Kindon, do you want to respond to that? Because this list is going to change, and maybe you could explain how it's going to change, and so that what we're left with is actually manageable and metric driven.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So what we're planning as next steps, and again, this is subject to your thoughts and direction. What we'd like to do is Michael and I would like to set up one-on-one meetings with each of the council members. This will give us a chance to go through and specifically look at those projects or initiatives that you submitted, and then create an actionable type of goal or project that we can work on that. Now, some of these are very clear. And so we already have that. Others are a lot more open or broad. And so we need to come up with something that is very clear. So, for an example,
let me just throw one out, maybe updating our playgrounds. Is this something that we want to do in this fiscal year? And so that, budgetarily, we would allocate the full amount in this budget year, or would the goal from the council be update our playground equipments over the next 3 fiscal years and therefore allocate X amount of dollars every fiscal year for the next 3 years? So we're prepared to do that. And so again, we want to get it to very clear goals of what is going to be done. Once we get those action items defined, we'll be able to come back to the council at the February 16th workshop meeting. And from there, we'll go through the list. Council members could let us know which ones they support, which ones they don't want to have move forward in the process. And then with that, or from there, we would send out the list to our planning commissioners, or I'm sorry, our commission members for each of our different commissions. We'd send it out to advisory boards, our youth council, other groups, other stakeholders, and have them rank or select a certain number of these action items. It could be 5, it could be 8, that would then come back to the council later at the final time to narrow down to 2 or 3 under each category. And so I think, James, this goes back to your point, and this is, I think, a good time to discuss this. I don't know if we need to spend a lot of it, is what we're trying to do with this. Once we create this work plan, we will be, as staff, start working on that work plan. That will be our goal, carrying us through June of 2023. Now, other items are going to come up as you meet with constituents, as things occur at the state or at the county level. And what will happen is we'll have to determine if some of those action items that we selected, or the council selected, if they stay on or if they're bumped or replaced by another one. I think James, you hit on the head. We have items that have been brought up, from future agenda items that just sit there. And I think what we need to do is, again, we're hoping that council prioritizes staff time with these. If council wants us to address 8, 10, 15, 30 number of future agenda items, I think there's an understanding that staff capacity is then pulled away from some of those action items that are defined under the strategic priorities. And so I think we have to understand that once we identify these action items, that is what staff will be working on as all other priorities. If other things come up, there needs to be a discussion of whether that removes staff time from those priorities or not. Now, with that said, as I've shared these list of projects and initiatives with some of the department directors, there's already been comments of, hey, we're already working on it. I'm glad they put that on. These are things that our team have been wanting to do. And so one of the steps in this process too will be meeting with the department directors and also other staff from the different departments to help understand, again, what projects or initiatives they were already planning to work on. And these could be items that were funded previously or that were in the pipeline. And so we present those to you as well, so you understand not only what council has directed us to do, but also what staff has been tasked with or has been in process for some time. I hope that helps. Does that help a little bit, Mayor?
I understand the process. I hope it helps everyone else. Can I add that the next step with the one-on-ones that you're going to have with all the council members is one of that short-term expectation be that we maybe, after we see the entire list, we realize, well, maybe that's more important. I'll remove this one. Would you like us to self-select and kind of pull back a little bit, because the lists are pretty long? Is that one of the outcomes?
It is very long. And I think that's, as you look at the list, and again, this is your first time seeing each of your colleagues' comments or ideas. As you look at that, you might think, oh, that actually is more of a priority than I envisioned it. So let's let me put my support behind that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very important to note.
So we'll continue around the table, but any questions right now about the process, about what it's gonna, so after tonight, it's gonna be one-on-ones with council members and staff, an opportunity to maybe pull back of some other ideas. And then from there, we're heading into a workshop to go with this new list, correct, Kendon? This more focused list. And then from there, it's going to go out to the public, out to our commissions, out to different interest groups to get their feedback on that step. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And you'll be guiding us. I mean, if the list still feels like staff doesn't have the capacity, you'll say, hey, look, you know what? And on your one-on-ones, I'm guessing, you know, the capacity is, this looks like 2 years worth of projects. Maybe we could divide it from first year to second year, something like that.
And that's correct, Mayor. And I think also as we start the budget process, we might find some constraints financially, meaning if we come up with a list of projects and initiatives that are $30 million, and we know that we don't have that to do within 1 year, that puts a constraint on us to be able to implement that. And so again, we would have to come back to council, you know, as part of that budgetary process and say, as we've looked at this, you know, we've assigned some potential cost. This might be something that we need to push out 2 or 3 years to do this.
All right, let's go around. Does anyone want to raise their hand first? And then I'd like to hear from members of the public, Maury, if there is anybody. And anybody watching, please, this is an opportunity to weigh in on what you've heard.
So far, we have no hands up, Madam Mayor.
No members of the public? Okay.
No, none right now.
Okay. Then I'll just select, thank you, James. How about Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro?
Thank you. And I won't reiterate what's already been said, but I agree with it. I love the idea. I think there's a lot of excellent ideas from all of us. Some that I didn't think of, some I did support, but we'll have the opportunity to do that. I think I'm agreeing with all of you in your statements also, Kendon, that some of these are really long-term projects, not short-term, and some are future agenda item type matters that can be handled in a short amount of time if we as a council, staff, everyone else deems it important enough. So I look forward to this. It's a lot of work going forward. Thank you for the work so far, and Michael as well. And I know we will hear back and we'll have more information. I certainly can already see some things that I would possibly remove of mine and support of others as well. So I think I would rather see, and I think James said this, a handful of items that we actually can accomplish and get done and get started if it's a 1 or 2 year process or more, rather than have a list that just goes on forever on future agenda. So that I would like to see us do and get together as a group.
Thank you, David, or Mayor Pro Tem. I think that's so important. And just to emphasize that, James, you mentioned it, David also. Just as a reminder, what we're creating is a work plan, and that work plan should have no more than 12 to 15 projects and initiatives on this. It should be a very, and maybe even less. It maybe has less depending on the councils where we want to emphasize our time. The items that do not make it to this year's work plan, it does not mean those are not important. We will continue to either bring those up at the next year's study sessions and discussions, or again, there might be, I've seen this in the past with certain projects. We might have, again, I'll use the example of playground improvements. We might say, hey, we want to scale that or phase that over a 2 or 3 year process, and then find the opportunity to apply for grant funding, which allows us to start the project immediately. I've seen that in other cities I've worked with. I've seen that and with other colleagues. So that might then be a discussion where we come back and say, council, this was phased out over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, but because of this windfall of this grant, we can do this now in the next 9 months. And so we would have that discussion with council at that time. But again, those that aren't on the work plan now, they're not lost. we'll retain those and bring those back next year. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Weintraub?
I think this is a great exercise. I'm looking forward to our one-on-ones. When the list is finalized, the work plan, the one thing I would request is that like next to each item, it shows what department will be responsible for the execution. Just, I think that'll be helpful. And then when issues arise, we know who to work with through you, but just to show also, you know, we want to be fair that not everything goes to public works or not everything falls under community development. We have to be mindful of the other projects and work items. And I mean, that's up to you, but I think that'll help us when we come back as a group to see where you would have all of this assigned.
Very good point. Thank you.
And thank you, Michael, for all the work on this. It came out really well.
Councilmember Kraut.
I'd like to reiterate the thanks to Michael, to Kendon, and to everybody else who's worked on this. This is a great exercise. We've had so many great ideas out of this city council, and it's nice to see this priority setting workshop so that we can focus our efforts onto the ones that have the highest priority. I don't know about the rest of you, but many, if not most of my items came from the general public. They were people had reached out to me and said, why don't we do this? Or why don't we have that? And that brings a point up that as we have these public workshops, after we've set these lists, I think it's likely we're going to get more ideas from the public. So would those be tabled until next year? Is the list of projects finite and set after this meeting?
It is not. And thank you, Councilmember Kraut. So when we have the workshop, even in our one-on-ones or even at the workshop on February 16th, there might be wonderful ideas that are presented to the council. And we want to be able to entertain those. And so we would entertain those at the workshop and then send those on to our stakeholders afterwards. As the council, I think what's wonderful about this process is you have the luxury of introducing or changing these projects and initiatives all the way up into that final approval. And so that gives, that time as stakeholders participate in the process to really vet some ideas and put those that are the most important at the forefront.
Thank you.
Okay. And I also want to thank Michael and Kindon for moving this forward. And we are moving quickly. And it is important that we all meet deadlines and get information into them. You can see that dates are set and we need to be responsive to that. And Kindon in particular, I mean, you haven't been with the city very long at all, but you recognized immediately that this was a missing piece in our operations in how we do business. And so I want to thank you in particular for bringing this to our attention and to all of my colleagues for agreeing to go on this ride with him. And I'm excited. It's going to be interesting. So thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know, Mayor, if we want to, I'm not sure. Each of you have complimented those who've taken a part in this. We do have several of our directors that are on the meeting. I'm not sure if any of the directors would like to make some general comments. This is their first time seeing this list as well. And so, Michael and I will be meeting again with the directors and staff from different departments. But Mayor, do you want to open it up if there's any comments from directors?
Let me make it clear, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree with me, that at any time, as Tom added after an item had already been heard, valuable information, I welcome the directors and any staff at any point. I think it has to be, and in fact, if you haven't considered how to involve all staff who might not be just the directors in the process, I would encourage that as well. But certainly anyone that's online now, if you want to raise your hand, Mari, you could let us know if anyone's got something to add.
No hands are coming up, Madam Mayor.
Do you have anything to add, Mari?
I'm very excited to be working on this project. Oh, actually, Michael Russo just raised his hand. We'll bring him in.
Okay. Michael Russo is the director of our communications arm.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi there. I think this is a really exciting time for the city. I'm very thrilled to see this. And I think what this really does, and it's been brought up before, is it really gives us a roadmap. It's something that, as you mentioned, we really haven't had before as an organization. So I love seeing the list. I love everybody's input on there. And I think all the strategic objectives that have been laid out, those either 4, 5, or 6 buckets, depending on what the final number will be, I think are very good. And I think we're really pointed in the right direction with this.
Thank you for that input. I know you have experience in other jobs doing these types of exercises, and it's I've heard good things. So thank you for that. All right. So let's finish
Madam
up.
Mayor, we have Don Penman also wanting to speak.
Oh, welcome, Don Penman, our acting community development director. Good to see your name. You might be.
There.
Go ahead, Don.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
As everyone knows, I'm not the most technology-oriented person. I'm probably the most technology-challenged person on staff.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
Thank you. So I just want to add a couple comments. First of all, I think it's, as I think all of you indicated, it's and Ken did as well, it's really important to keep the momentum going. That this just doesn't become a study that, gee, these are all great, and now let's move on to the next issue at hand. So I think that's great that you're continuing to act on these and the one-on-one meetings and the workshops and things, because there are so many things that are going on in the city. It's important to keep that momentum. And I think that as you get through this, and having seen a number of cities go through these processes, you'll be forced to whittle down some of these things and establish priorities. And I think it's also great, and Kendon's done this, is to reach out in the organization and, talk to employees and make sure they're aware of what's going on, and because they'll be working with the council to implement many of these. So I think it's really exciting you're doing it and you're committed to doing it, and I think it's long overdue, and I think it's a great effort, and I'm sure it'll result in a lot of really positive things and priorities the council can work on and establish.
Wonderful. Thank you for that input. It's encouraging. Is there anyone else, Madam Clerk?
No other hands, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Well, no, at any time, all employee comments are welcome at any time in this process. All right. Thank you, Kendon and Michael, again. We're going to move on to informational reports. We have the check register for the period of December 28th, 2021 through January 12th, 2022. Are any questions, comments regarding the check registry? Task force reports. Any hands up for task force reports? Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro.
Thank you. I'm sure Peter's going to say the same thing. We met as a budget committee with our CFO and our city manager to go over, among other things, as was mentioned, the UAL and OPED liabilities the city is facing and what we might do and options. And we'll be having more meetings, and then the budget meetings start. So we're going to be very busy in the next few weeks on that. Also had a SCAG legislative committee meeting with state representatives going over the state priorities and the state budget, the governor's budget. And they were very clear, and I will provide that to Kendon and council as well. And last but not least was Valley Economic Alliance board meeting, and one tomorrow morning at 8. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro and Councilmember Kraut, thank you both for the extra time you will be putting in preparing our budget. And Councilmember Kraut.
Yes, I was going to mention our budget meeting, but seeing as Mayor Pro Tem Shapiro beat me to it, I'll take this opportunity to recognize really quickly here, folks. If you drive by Paramount Ranch, there's some new fencing along the Cornell Road and some new plantings at the entrance, and that was done by Eagle Scout candidate Dove Jacob Metz. And he's also trying to finish his citizenship in the community merit badge, and he's online with us tonight. And he's now
Wonderful.
raised his hand. I don't know if we can call him in to say hi real quick.
He's welcome to come in, and if he raises his hand, we know he wants to come in, so we'll give him a beat. But it's exciting to see the work that's being done at Paramount Ranch, the restoration work. And welcome, Dove. Tell us about your project. Dove, can you tell us about your project? He might be muted.
He's not muted. Dove, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, I had some microphone trouble.
There you go.
Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Kraut, for helping us get the fence done so quickly. It was a 100-foot fence that we did on the road to Paramount Ranch, and we got it done in around 4 or 5 hours. And it was a big part of Mr. Kraut's help that we got it done so fast. So I just wanted to thank him for helping.
That's great. So that's your Eagle project, is it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Congratulations on that. That's quite an achievement.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Any other task force reports? I'll just mention that I had a Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy meeting earlier this week. There wasn't an item specifically related to Calabasas, but there was a report on the 30 by 30 initiative by Governor Newsom on acquiring properties. And there were a number of properties in Calabasas that were identified on one of the maps. And that was just the first step in the Conservancy's process to kind of inventory areas. So I'll keep you posted on what might be the second step, which would obviously would be willing sellers. But I'll get that map to the rest of you. All right. You might know.
Madam Mayor, we have Councilmember Weintraub's hand up.
Oh, my apologies. Go ahead.
Don't worry. No, we had a COG meeting and Councilmember Bazagian came and gave everyone an update on redistricting. So it was great, his efforts to educate the COG, and everyone was appreciative. And the COG is, getting ready to begin to work with our new legislators. Well, once all of that is finalized.
Councilmember Bazagian, I think it would be helpful for the public, for them to know maybe an illustration of each of the new districts and who will be in those districts and when their election is. Something at a glance, because I don't think many people know about these changes.
I could prepare something for the next e-news if you want.
Oh, I think that would be great.
Little paragraph. I'll work with staff.
Okay. All right. Then let's go to city manager's report. Do you have anything to report, Ken?
Mayor, I don't have anything else to report, except I think we are going back into closed session if that's still okay.
Yes, thank you for that. And then I just wanted to bring to my colleagues' attention, there's been one slight change in the future agenda item list. The word information has been added. So if you wanted to know more about something, it could start off on an information list, just, for our benefit. And then it could move over to a further discussion and action if it was on an agenda. So it offers more opportunities for us to ask for information. So at any time, if you want to add something in, let us know. Okay, and are there any items for any future agenda or information? I will say that I had a conversation with Kindon today, and knowing what's ahead of us, I promised him that I would suppress any new agenda items to the best of my ability so that we could get this work done in a timely manner. And then actually we'll have a roadmap, but certainly information items are always encouraged. All right, so we are going to adjourn to our closed session. Is that the proper way to describe what we're going to do, Matt. And I thought we could take a short break, maybe a 5-minute break, and reconvene. Mari, can we use the same link as earlier this evening?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
I'll start it in 5 minutes after the break.
Can someone just
Okay.
resend it so it's fresh in the?
I'll send it right now.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, that would be great. All right. Good night, everybody, and I'll see my colleagues in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mayor.